Hi there, it's Tim Schrock from Design Build Solutions, once again bringing you Tech Tip Tuesday. That's a mouthful. Hashtag Tech Tip Tuesday. There we go. I am working on, I believe I actually did a Tech Tip Tuesday on this project previously. I have this opening that we're creating in the living room, between the living room and the hallway, where I've got some pedestals, some pilasters, some columns, etc. But chief architect columns don't look quite, as the kids say these days, they're not on fleek, for sure. So the contractor wants them to look more like these, you know, like recessed, like nice, like trim, nice capital, nice pedestal, nice detailing here. Here's a sample of fluted columns. Here's another sample with a little pedestal in the middle here. There's another pedestal example, recessed pedestal. We're not going to do quite like this recessed pedestal, but it'll be similar. Okay, I'm going to show you today how to create a custom column like this and then put it in your library. First of all, I know that my floor to capital height is 91.5 inches. That's important. I also know that I want the width of this to be no more than, to be right at 10 inches, okay? So I'm going to start, I started a new model, new file in Chief Architect, and I've got my, here's my 10-inch face. I want it to, you know, the recess to be in like this. And approximately like that, right? Then I want my base to be here with a little bit of a pedestal. That's the 12-inch portion outside. My pedestal, then I've changed my detail a little bit. My wall will come in like so underneath this pedestal and be capped like that, and it'll keep our detail clean this way. All right. So there's our numbers. I've got everything laid out. This recess will be 1/4 of an inch, etc., or 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to start with my center core, if you will. I'm going to take this polyline and convert polyline to a solid. 91.5 is my height. I want it right at 0 at the bottom. Okay. This pedestal piece, I'm going to make 12 inches tall, at 12 inches off the floor. I'm going to make it 3/4 of an inch thick, and the top, I want it to be at 12 inches. The base then, so if the top's at 12, it's 3/4 of an inch thick, the bottom's at 11.25. I'm going to make the base of this, that's this 11.5 inch piece, to be a polyline solid, again, 11.25 inches thick, and the bottom's at 0, because that's going to be right on the floor. There's the elevation at top will be 11.25, right beneath that pedestal cap. Click OK. Now, I can't create this, the recess part, the panels, in plan view. I could if I chose to do it a different direction, I guess, but I'm going to do it this way. Now, I'm going to make my, take a section through the middle of this. And we can see what I want is to have my recessed panels something like this. This is the core, right? This line really is the back of this recessed panel here. So I want my trim to be kind of like this, and then there'll be another piece up here. I'm sort of exaggerating, as you can tell. Finish this off with a crown, like so. Put a base on this, right? Trim the inside of this with a bit of cove. You get the idea, right? Okay. So, how am I gonna space this out? First off, I'm going to get my millwork. I'm sorry. Yeah, millwork. Where did my crown go, right? Molding. Okay, so first off, I'm going to get my moldings profile. Now, this is Chief Architect Premier X9. Wherever you find your crown moldings profiles, that's what you're looking for. Select the profile that you want. I'm going to choose CA33 here. And if I right click on this, I'm going to place that molding profile in my plan right there. You know, I'm going to try it in section view. Last several versions don't allow this, and X9 is the same way. So you can place that molding profile, right click on that molding profile and place it in plan, and then I just grab that, and that's just a polyline. I'm going to copy it. Now I'll copy and paste it into my section. If I make this 3/4 of an inch, so I'm drawing a polyline, hit my tab key, and I want it to go 3/4 of an inch positive X direction. Then I can put that here. And I'm using the X key on my keyboard now. I created X as a keyboard shortcut to be the point-to-point move tool. So that would be our crown profile. Not bad. Perfect. Now there's the line. That's the top line where I want my recess panels to start from, right? I'm going to draw a line from here at the top of my pedestal cap. I'm going to click on my multiple copy tool and then the set intervals. I want to evenly distribute copies when dragging, and I want to distribute 5 copies. That's going to make 5 separate segments here, equal segments. And as I drag from here up to this line, I now have, I can have 2/3 and 3/3 as a proportion, as a proper scaled proportion, right? So I want to draw this from the base to this line, and then I want to make that 3/4 of an inch in both directions wider. So I'm going to double click on my concentric tool here and change that jump to 3/4 of an inch. Now I select my polyline and just pull it one jump over. So now that's 10 inches wide, as you'll notice here, and that means that's the finish width of my column that I wanted it to be. Now, in here, I want this recess panel to be 2.5 inches. Top, bottom, sides. Okay, so I will take this 10-inch piece here and do a concentric jump. Double click on this, 2.5 inches, 2.5. Select my polyline, copy, and drag this corner in like so. By dragging the corner versus this is just left to right, this is top to bottom. By dragging the corner, I get all 4 sides of that. I'm going to undo that because it didn't get my copy properly aligned. I did it too many times there. So there's that. I'm going to take this. I could do this a couple of ways. I could make this a polyline solid that's 3/4 of an inch thick, and then make this a hole in the polyline solid. I'm going to do it as a no, I'm going to do it as a polyline solid, because if I do it as a molding polyline, it makes it very difficult to work with on the in plan view. So I am actually going to do it like that, polyline solid. I'm going to take this center one. I'll do that later. Let's take this outside one and convert it to a polyline solid, 3/4 of an inch thick. Take this line, I'm going to copy and paste in place, because I want one to create a hole and the next one to create the cove molding on the inside. So I've copied and pasted to place. I've got one object selected. I'm going to convert this polyline to a solid again, and now I have the option to make it a hole in the polyline solid. Now I've got the hole selected. I'm going to shift click. Sorry, that didn't work. Okay. I'm going to do this again. I've got the standard polyline selected. I don't want that right now. I want the hole. So I'm going to tab on my keyboard. Now I've got a polyline solid. I'm watching the lower left-hand corner of my screen, tells me what that object is. Now I'm going to shift click, and now I've got 2 objects selected. I'm going to copy both of these objects up here. What I probably should do right now is actually just delete this hole, because I need to position this piece at its proper dimensions before we make that hole 2.5 inches concentric, right? So if I do my concentric, you can see the mouse cursor has the 2 arcs with the arrow. That means I'm in concentric mode, and if I start pulling, I'm going to pull the top and the bottom the same dimension in my 2.5 inch jumps. Well, I don't want that really. So I'm going to go back to my default on the operations menu here, and just pull that down to this line, pull that up to this line. Now I'm going to go into my concentric and we'll copy, pull that in. I've got two polyline solids nested right on top of each other, but that's okay. This middle one, center one, I'm going to make it a hole. And there we go. Now I'm going to hit the W key on my keyboard, goes to our line tool, W key, because I want to select that polyline and I want to copy this up here. So I'm going to try point to point. X, point here, point there. Let's get back into default mode and drag this up like so. Perfect. Now I'm not going to do anything with these polylines just yet because I want to go into plan view, and we see our objects polyline solids here, and I want these four pieces, actually there's two polyline solids and two polyline solids that have been turned into holes, and I want to move this back. So I'm going to point to point move X on my keyboard from this corner to this corner. Lastly, I'm going to drag my camera back out beyond. I had it in the middle of the column so I could see my lines very easily and snap to them, but right now I want it beyond so I can see these polyline solids. Back to my section view. Now, because I dragged my camera, I didn't create a new camera. I keep my CAD lines here where I wanted them. Right? So I'm going to click on this CAD line, and I believe I can actually shift click and make both of them a molding polyline, 3D molding polyline. Now Chief chose this crown automatically as the molding. It assumed that's the molding polyline we wanted it to be. I forgot about that option, but we want to replace this actually with a crown molding, just a simple cove. Let's do this cove. 3/4 of an inch thick, 3/4 of an inch high, and we're going to play with top, bottom, and extrude inside and see how this happens. Okay, the line that we want, it's going outside of the line we want, so I'm going to open again, go to moldings, let's try top. I think that's the route we want. Let's not close this section, but we'll take another section through this direction. And if we zoom into that there, we see our cove is oriented in the direction we want it, and that's just right. So we can close this section. And now I'm going to create one more polyline. Square. I'm going to select that and turn that into a molding polyline. Now notice I've got the CA33 selected, so it should. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, only 3D molding polylines, that's right. So I'm going to give it the 91.5 height and add a new molding profile. Crown molding CA33. If you have manufacturer's moldings, you can go select those profiles. You can select any profile you like. I'm going to make that, remember I set to 91.5 into my general tab here, so that's to the top of my molding profile. And I don't want this extruded inside the polyline we drew, I want it outside the polyline we drew. Beautiful. Lastly, if we take a rendering of this, all we're seeing right now is the moldings, so let's turn on the CAD default layer. Turning on my layer display options and display in my camera view set. There we go. So we roll that around. That looks great, except we only have that recess on one side. I'm going to make this column all one color. And so I'm going to paint these items all this color. And I'm doing that before I copy this panel system around. Can close the plan view or the rendering view. Now remember, I've got one side here has the recesses, and I want it to be on all four sides. So what I can do is select these objects, copy rotate them about the center of this whoops. So I can copy rotate these objects about the center of this column at a 90-degree segment between each. So to do that, I'm going to draw a line diagonally from one corner to the other corner, and I know the midpoint of that line is the center of my column. Then I'm going to place a point here. You could do that by going, if your toolbar doesn't have this place point option, go to CAD, Points, Place a Point. I'm going to place that point right in the middle of this line. Next, I will click on my arrow key to select objects, but I don't want to select all of the objects in here, so I'm going to select just the objects that are contained in the box that I draw, that I drag here. So if I select these objects, you'll notice in the lower left-hand screen I've got 4 objects currently selected, it says. We're going to transform replicate these objects and make 3 copies, one for the other 3 sides. Rotate doesn't work. Oh, crud. Rotate does not work with these objects. Okay. It'd be much simpler because then I could do it about that current point. I could rotate these 3 objects 90 degrees about the current point and 1, 2, 3. But something in there, I'm guessing 3D molding polylines doesn't work with this. So we have to cancel that object there. We'll have to, oh, I know what we can do. I'm going to draw a line here and draw a line here. I'm going to delete this. No, I'm going to keep that diagonal one. Here's a neat little trick. Select these objects. Then I can copy, mirror, and if I mirror about this diagonal line, they're going to end up on this face 90 degrees from where it is right now. That means I don't have to copy, rotate, move, point to point, etc. It's right where I want it. Now I've got this bottom recess panel selected. I'm going to copy that. I didn't change anything. I didn't select anything more. Reflect about this middle line, and we're on the top recess panel. That's got its point. The last one is the right side. Again, I'm not touching anything. I'm not clicking anything, deselecting anything. It's already selected. Copy again, reflect about the object, and use my diagonal line. And now the right hand side is got all four sides have the recess panel. And we can see that by going into the rendering view. All four sides have the cove, have the stiles and rails. Something happened. Two sides have the cove, two sides don't have the cove. Very interesting. Very interesting. Right? Now the question is, which two sides? When you first pull up this rendering, this lower face is what's this face, and the right face is what you're going to be seeing. So it's the lower face and the right face that don't have the cove. I zoomed in too close there. Let's hit my arrow key and click right there. Polyline solid. Okay, we're going to have to go into a section. Let's click a section of this in the middle. Aha! It's still there, it's just behind everything. So there's the molding polyline. I've got that selected, I can tell by the lower left-hand corner. I'm going to open this, and I'm guessing I want to uncheck extrude inside. And that reverses it exactly what I wanted. Now what I want it to do, right? Now, because I'm taking a section through the middle, I'm seeing this one on this right side, on this lower face is on the right of the section, but this one right here that's on the right of my plan view is straight in front of me in section. So if I select that, right there, I've got the molding polyline, again, open, go to moldings, uncheck extrude inside, and now it's flat. Got to do the same thing to the bottom recess, and I think we are done. Very good. Select that molding 3D molding polyline, moldings, uncheck. Let's double check our 3D model. There we go. There's our column, recess column. Now, this is in parts, right? We want to put this in as a whole, as one piece, really, of the as a column in our library, right? That's just one piece. Now, I don't need this section any longer, so I'm going to close that. And we do not wish. I'm going to save it for this one. I'm just going to save it in my plan view. I've saved the model. When I do custom objects like this, I try to remember to save the model, because if something changes later on in the design, I don't want to have to go through all this work to recreate the design, right? Right. Okay. Now, the last little bit before we create this as an object, what I want to do is how do I want to create a block of how I want this to look in plan view. And this block is going to be in the library, it's going to be as wide as these lines here. So if I go to section view, take a section of this, it's going to be as wide from here to here. And that is 15 5/8 inch wide. I don't need to save this section. So I'm going to draw a square 15 5/8 in the X direction, 15 5/8 in the Y direction. And I'm going to center that by Command G on my keyboard around this line and Command G again on that line. You know what? I'm going to pull it off here. I really don't need it to be centered on that. Now, I'm going to draw, remember this was, I'm going to draw a line there. I'm going to Command G here. And then I'm going to draw a square here. That's the 10-inch square. Command G to center on this. This is the block that I want it to look like. Now, this polyline is the crown. This is the core with the this is the face of the recessed panels. This is the core that I want this to actually be a dashed line. I don't want all these lines here, right? Even if I deleted these construction lines, this vertical, the horizontal, and the diagonal line, even if I deleted those, that's fine, but I don't want all the rest of the lines in here in my block plan view. So I'm just going to create these three squares, and we're going to click on my select crossing, and we're going to make that into an architectural block. Make CAD block. Now once that CAD block is made, I'm going to open it and give it recessed column, give it a name that I know, plan. As long as it's in this file, that's great. Let's open this again, make it by object so that we see our dashed lines. Now comes the cool part. If I have no other surfaces in this model, just this column, it is ready to export as a as a library object, as a symbol. So in the camera view, I'm going to Tools, Symbol, Convert to Symbol. Now I could convert this to a cabinet door, a regular door, a doorway, electrical fixture, an interior fixture. We want it as millwork. And I'm going to add it to my library and show the advanced options. Symbol name is going to be 10-inch recessed square column. That's what it's going to look like. My 2D block, remember this is what we created that for. It created one automatically from what surfaces it saw, but I want it to be this one. So you see how much cleaner that is with just 3 lines versus all that stuff. Recessed column plan, that's the block I want it to be. Now we're going to go to options. This is a what? Nothing. This is none of those. It's an other. Materials. I'm going to just call this column, so I just clicked on it once. Column, the default for this whenever we place it is going to be color bone. Sizing, at this point, I'm not going to change anything on this. We could change it so that it scales properly when you resize it. I'm not going to change anything with at this time. Now, we'll click OK. And that shows up now as an object in my user library, user catalog, okay? That I can come in here to my plan and place it. If I go back to my camera view in my working plan, we now see I have this 10-inch column that I want to replace. I'm going to delete these columns here. Whoops, let's undo that because I want the center of that. I'm going to draw a line from the center of this column and a line from the center of this column so that when I delete these columns, I can place this pretty easily. So what I'm doing is I'm in the select mode. I click once, it's selecting a doorway, tab on my keyboard, that selects the wall, tab again, not it, not it, not it. Okay, I gotta select again closer. There we go. There's the millwork. Now, I've got my column. I'm gonna Command G, center about this wall. Command G again, center about that line. Copy this piece. Drag it over here, Command G, centered about this line. Look at that. Look at that, would you? So, the last little bit that I see is we need to make this, make these columns from the floor, not from the finished floor, because that's how I did my measurements there. Let's see if my 91.5 isn't quite accurate somehow. (7'6". That's 90. Let's take a section this direction. 91.5 wasn't quite accurate, was it? (7'6¼ 90.25). That's okay. We can select these two columns. Oops. And just change that. That's not so big of a difference that it's going to kill anything here. There we go. Come on, where's the view I want? Camera, there we go. Now I'm going to change this just a little bit so that it shows up where I want it. We're going to move this over. I'm going to double check my concentric jump. I want it to be 0. I'm going to take this arc out of this. Make that the width of the wall. Take this arc out of this end. Make that the width of the wall. Now I'm going to make my concentric jump be 3/4. And pull that cap over. Now this cap doesn't need to go all the way past the post at this time now. So I'm going to pull that back here. There we go. Now we have the detail that we want. We put some base around this, which I can do with another molding polyline and plan view. Then that will be exactly what we need. I'm going to delete these two objects, that one and this one. I'm going to select that. That's the doorway, so that's not what I want. Copy this one about the center of this doorway. And copy this one. Again, about the center of the doorway. Paint these all the same color so our trim matches everywhere. And there we go. Tim Schrock from Design Build Solutions showing you on this Tech Tip Tuesday how to do custom recessed panel columns and turn them into library objects. Thanks for watching.